Hi boys and girls. It's time to look at our solutions for our DMA. I'm going to do solutions for week 1, day 2. So let's go ahead and get started with our first equation. Our first equation says 98, and I'm going to zoom in here. 98, and to that 98, we're going to add 33 more. And we want to know what our sum of those two combined is our total. So if we go ahead and start with our understanding of place value, we know we have 9 tens and 3 tens. So what that means is we have 90 and 30. And when we add 90 and 30, we can count up from 90, 3 more tens. So that would be 120. Because you go 100, 110, 120. Then you can go to your ones place. So we have 8 and 3 more. And when we add 8 and 3 more, we would have 11. Now we take the tens sum, which is a partial sum. We take the 11 from the ones, which is a partial sum. And we add those together. So 120 plus 10 would be 130, plus 1 more would be 131. So our sum of 98 and 33 would be 131. Now another strategy that we could use is taking the 98 and adding on the tens first. So if we do that, 98 plus 10 would be 108. Add 10 more, which would be 118. Add 10 more, which would be 128. So right now, we have a partial sum of 128. Now, we've just added the tens. Now we need to add the 3 from the ones. So we take that 128 and add the 3 from 30. And 128 plus 1 would be 129, 130, 131. So again, we still get the same sum, but just using a different strategy. Another way to look at this, third strategy, is compensation. So if we take 98, you'll notice that 98 is very close to 100. So what we could do is take 2 from the 33 and add it to the 98 to make that an even 100. Then what happens to the 33 is we're taking those 2 out of the 33 to make 31. Now, when we add the 100 and the 31 together, again, that's going to make a sum of 131. Let's look at the next problem. It says round the following numbers to the nearest 10. Now, sometimes it's confusing because with rounding, we're trying to use a nice friendly number that's easy to add in our heads. However, some students get confused thinking that this is add a 10 onto a number, but that's not the case. So on a number line, when we're looking at rounding, we want to find first the 2 tens that number falls between. So we know that the number 13, when we look at our groups of tens, we know that 13 is going to be right here past the 10 mark on a number line. Now, when we're looking at rounding a number, right in the middle of our tens is 5, which would make this 15. 13 is less than 15, which means that it's closer to the 10, it's 3 away from 10, but it's 7 away from 20. So if we were going to round 13 to the closest 10, it's going to round to 10. So if we go back to our DMA, 13 will round to the closest 10 of 10. Now let's look at 21. 21 is going to be right here, one past the 20 on for 21. So if it's going to be between 20 and 30, and we want to know which 10 the 21 is closest to, look at our number line, and we know that 25 is right in the middle, and it's less than 25, so since it's 1 away from 20, we know that it's not going to round to 30, it's going to be closer to 20. So we can place that on our answer sheet for our DMA. Now, let's take a look at the number 29. Again, 29 is going to be between the tens of 20 and 30. It is going to be right here on our number line. Now, if you notice, for 29 is 1 away from 30. It's 9 from 20. So if we wanted to say which 10 is 29 closest to, we're going to say it's closer to 30. And it's also past the 25 mark. So on our answer sheet, we're going to write 30. So that's just a brief mini lesson on rounding. Again, of course, we will do more in rounding later on, but this is just a brief mini lesson on rounding for the first time. Let's look at our bar graph. It says how many more students voted for baseball and hockey than football. So we notice how many more, the words how many more tell you that somebody has more. They want to know how many more. So they're looking for a difference between two amounts. So if we look at what it's telling us in our information, we want baseball and hockey, and tells us that we're combining those two amounts, than football, and we're comparing it to the football. So I'm just going to take a sheet of paper here, and I'm just going to show my work here. And of course, you can show your work on your DMA on the back of this page. There's some room. So we want baseball and hockey. So I'm going to put a B for baseball and an H for hockey. So baseball is at 40 students who voted for that as their favorite. And we have hockey that's at between the 20, or actually, yes, it's in between the 20 and the 30. It's right in the middle. So we know that between 20 and 30 is in the middle is 25. We want and. So we're going to add those together, and we get 40 plus 20 is 60, and 0 and 5 is 5. So we have 65 people like baseball and hockey. But we want to compare how many more people like baseball and hockey than football. So if we look at football, 45 people like football. So we're going to take the 65 people that like baseball and hockey, and we want to know how many more like baseball and hockey than football. So we're going to put an F here for football. And we just want to know how many more students like baseball and hockey than football. So if we take the 60, subtract the 40, that's going to, of course, give us 20. And then if we take our 5 and our 5, of course, that's going to be 0. And so when we put together, of course, that's going to be 20. So how many more people like football than baseball and hockey? Or how many more people like baseball and hockey than football? We have 20 more students that like baseball and hockey than football. So if we go here, we could say students that like baseball and hockey rather than football is 20 more students, 20 more. Now, if we take our equation here, we have 45, and to that 45, we're adding 88 more. So we can start off with our breaking it apart into our place values of 80 and 40. We could start, of course, with the larger addend, which is 80, and add 4 more 10s onto 80. So if I add 80 plus 10 is 90, plus another 10 is 100, plus another 10 is 110, plus another 10 is 120. Then if I take my 5 and my 8, we see that we have 8, and I can break this up as 2 and 3. 8 and 2 makes 10, plus 3 more is 13. So now I take the 10s, partial sum, and the 1s, partial sum, and I take those 1s and 10s and add them together. If I add 120 and that makes 130, plus 3 makes 133. Now, another strategy that you can use, and I would like to probably start with the larger addend, is I can take my 88 and add on my 10s first. So let's add on 40. I add on 40, I skip count 10s, 100. We start at 88, we would go 98, that's 110. 2 10s would be 108, 118, 128. 128 once we add 40 on to the 88. Now I'm going to take my 128 and I'm going to add 5 more to make this 45. So I'm going to add on 5 more. If I add on 2, that would make 130, and then I add 3 more, and I'm to get my 133 as my sum. Another strategy that you might want to consider is if I had my 88 and my 45, and it's usually easy to work with friendly numbers such as 10s, we can add on 2 more from the 45 to make this 90, which would make this 3. We add 90 plus 40, so 90 plus 4 more 10s would be 120, or 130, and then add 3 more would make your 133. So I can show this as 130, and then I add on the 3 more to make the 133. So those are our 4 problems for week 1, day 2. Those are the solutions for today. We'll come back tomorrow for day 3 of week 1, and we'll look at those solutions tomorrow. Have a nice Wednesday.